All right, peer instructors, if you guys will go ahead and continue passing out the midterm grades you have in your hand. As soon as you get done doing that, we will get started. Just a reminder, if you have cell phones, off, vibrate. If you have earbuds in, please take them out. Headphones, laptops, no Facebooking on your laptops, or close that unless you're doing something class related. As you've noticed, we're going to talk about midterm grades today, so formulate any questions you may have when you receive your midterm grades in hand. And as soon as the peer instructors get done handing those out, we will talk about those. A couple of announcements. If you guys would listen up, students, stop the chatter. You'll want to hear this. There was supposed to be initially a quiz for this week. You got some emails stating that there were assignments, a quiz this week, and other things coming up. The quiz for this week we've canceled altogether, so you don't have a quiz to do, so don't worry about that. Your point total in your syllabus is going to remain the same. The amount of points you can receive for the course, we're just going to adjust the points possible for some other assignments. So the point total is going to be the same, but the assignment's not going to happen. So there's not going to be a quiz coming up this week. So if you have that in your planner, you can mark it off. It's not going to happen. Another thing, as far as this class is concerned, peer instructors have been told now to mark you absent if you come excessively late or you leave considerably early. We've had a lot of people showing up 20 minutes late, leaving 30 minutes early. If you're doing that, we're going to have to count you absent. It's not fair for the people who are here 50 minutes every single week and get an A, and then you come for 20 minutes a week and get an A. It's not going to happen. So if you're leaving early, if you're coming late, they're going to start marking you absent. So you need to have a conversation with them if you're going to leave. Just make sure you do that. So does anybody not have a copy of the midterm grades in hand? If you didn't get a copy for some reason, you can come to the first year experience office. We can get you a copy. Peer instructors, if somebody walks in late, please make sure that they get their midterm grades. And when we conclude here, get us the ones you have remaining up here at the front. Any other announcements? Anything not mentioned? If you're in a 2-day-a-week class, you probably know this by now, but this is fall break. Campus is not open Thursday, Friday. You're not going to have class at the end of the week. If you have any friends who don't really pay attention, who aren't in class today, you don't have to tell them that. Maybe they'll try to go to class on Thursday. It'd be funny, I think. No class Thursday at all for none of your classes, not just this course. You have nothing Thursday and Friday. So, as far as your midterm grades are concerned, go ahead and get those out that you were just given. We're going to go over those in detail. We're going to answer any questions you may have. If you have questions along the way, give us a hand up and we'll answer your question. If you have questions at the end, let us know. Brian's going to come in towards the latter half and he's going to talk about some other things concerning grades, such as financial aid and withdrawing and those kinds of things. First things first, we're going to talk about what your midterm grades look like. This is your transcript. This is an unofficial copy of your transcript from NSU. If you go get an official transcript printed today, I think these grades are going to be on it. They're going to be on here for a few weeks. They are temporary. These are going to come off. They're not going to be permanent. If you'll look, you'll see the semester. It says Fall 2010. It has the title of the course. Gentlemen, get with your peer instructors and get your midterm grades. It'll have the title of the course. It'll have the It'll have the course number for the course. On the far right, it'll say MT. The MT signifies that this is a midterm grade for these courses. Midterm meaning that it's not permanent. It is going to come off. Did any of you guys had a first 8 weeks class that has already concluded, or a weekend course, something that's already happened? If so, that grade may be on there without an MT beside it. That's a permanent grade that's with you. Once a class concludes, that grade goes on your transcript, and it's there from here to the grave. It's with you forever. So if you have a class that's concluded already, that grade's going to be on your midterm grades. Did anybody have concurrent work before they got here? Like high school concurrent coursework, maybe an AP class they got credit for? Those kinds of things are going to show up on your transcript. Your concurrent work should be on there. If you took the class work here, it should already be on your transcript. If you took it somewhere else and it's not on there, you need to make sure you have a transcript sent here. You're going to see a couple of things. You're going to see the classes you've already taken. You're going to see this semester's courses and the semester GPA. At the very bottom, you're going to see the total cumulative GPA with all your classes combined. If you had an AP course, The credits for AP classes are not posted until you accumulate 12 credit hours here. The university doesn't want you to come here and get AP credit for chemistry through us and then withdraw and leave, and your only credit be an AP class you really didn't take through us. So you have to accumulate 12 hours here before you get any AP stuff put on your transcript. Below the semester, you're going to see a semester GPA. That tells you what your current semester GPA would be if the semester were to end right now. Provides a projection for you. Some of you may be happily surprised, some of you negatively surprised. If you do not agree with the grades on your midterm grade list, on your transcript, there's nothing we can physically do about grades in your other courses. What you need to do is talk to your teachers. They report these. If you have Comp 1 on there and there's a C and you think you have a B, talk to your teacher. They reported these grades and they were all manually entered. So if anything does not look correct, you need to talk to your teachers. These grades were entered last week. They were reported a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So if you've withdrawn from a course in the past 2 weeks, or you've taken a huge midterm, or you've done something that will affect your grade positively or negatively, that may not be reflected in the grade you're looking at right there. So if you dropped the class this week, but it's showing an F on the paper you just got, that's okay. You just need to follow through and make sure you actually did withdraw. Make sure you have something showing you withdrew from the course, because you may have had this grade reported before you actually withdrew from the class. At the very bottom, there's two lines. One says grad retention, one says cumulative. They're probably the same thing right now. They would vary later on if maybe you repeated the course and replaced the grade in the class, then you would have two different GPAs going on. The cumulative GPA always includes everything. Retakes, fails, everything you've ever attempted. The grad retention GPA at the very bottom, that line, will only include, if you've done like academic forgiveness and repeated a course and got it replaced, it will include your new grades. There is a policy. Don't rely on this. Don't bank on this, because it will sink your ship if you rely on it. But there is a policy here called academic forgiveness, where if you make a D or an F in a course, you can repeat the course and get your grade replaced. By doing that, you can do that up to 4 times in your college career, up to 18 credit hours, I believe, through the Office of Admissions and Records. Say you make a D in history, you want to retake it, retake the course. Once you've completed it a second time and you've done better, go to Admissions and Records. They can help you fill out the form, get the grade replaced in your GPA. Physically, that D or F is always there. It will always be there. But in your GPA, you'll have a new GPA reflecting the replacement at the very bottom of your transcript. That's why there's 2 different lines at the bottom. So as far as other things that go along with your grades, the university, like many high schools, private schools, other places, have honor rolls. There's a president's honor roll and a dean's honor roll here. If you make a 4.0, if you maintain a 4.0, you'll be on the president's honor roll. The dean's honor roll is a 3.5 with no grades below a B, which you may think is not really that big of a deal. A lot of people operate under the philosophy here, C's equal degrees. You guys ever heard that? C's equal to, it's not a great motto to live by, it works. But if you do well enough, you can be put on honor rolls while you're in school, which you may think may not make a difference. In the end, that could really make a difference between you getting a job and maybe even not getting a job. If Jen and I applied for a job and our experience is the same, everything's exactly the same across the board, but she had a 3.5 and was on an honor roll and I had a 3.3, they're going to hire her because that's the one distinct difference. So this should be something you kind of strive for and set your goals to attain. Is it realistic to make a 4.0 in college? Less than 5% of people do it. You're kind of freak of nature if you can make a 4.0 in college. If you can, that is awesome. But if you can't, don't get discouraged. How many of you had all A's all through high school? Yeah, I did. A lot of people do. First semester in college, I made a B. I didn't cry about it. Didn't make any C's, made A's and B's. But it happens when you get to school. Most of the people that make all A's in high school are not able to do that here, so don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen. We do have an award in our office. Has anyone heard of the Outstanding Freshman Award? I'm sure our peer instructors have. Some of them are actually, Morgan's actually one of them. Is there anybody else in here who is one of them? Sonia? Megan? There's an award. If you have questions, you can ask them or you can come see us. Every year there are 10 students selected, and the title of the award is Outstanding Freshman. Then we have an Outstanding Male and an Outstanding Female. There's 10 students selected out of the entire class. As you know, there are about 1,200, between 1,225 and 1,250 of you guys. So do the math. Pretty prestigious out of 1,200 people if 10 people are selected and you can be one of them. It's a great resume builder. It looks great for you. It looks great for the school. Makes mama proud. You get your mug in the paper. All kinds of positive things come from that. The application process for that starts in the spring. It's not totally centered around grades. Grades are important, but it also includes campus involvement, other things you do. So those are the kinds of things you can look forward to. If you've ever been to a collegiate graduation, you've probably noticed a lot of students when they graduate, they have colored cords around their neck, whether it's green and yellow, black and white, red, depends on where you go to the graduation at. There's different levels of honors you can graduate with. There's 3 different levels here, with the lower tier being a 3.4 to 3.59, 3.6 to 3.79, and 3.8 to 4.0. And this is kind of nationally across the board. Most colleges use this same type system. So when you put this on a resume, when you go apply for a job, they know what this means. Whether it's summa cum laude, magna cum laude, or cum laude, 3.4 to 3.59, all the way up to a 3.8 to 4.0. So it depends on how you do in school. If you can hit at least that 3.4 mark, you'll graduate technically with honors. Any questions about anything that you saw on your midterm grades that didn't make sense to you? Logistically? Anything not look, well, if it doesn't look right, we can talk about that after class. But any questions about anything that I didn't explain? Now, you do know what the course number means. If you're talking about English 1113, the last digit, the 3, tells you it's a 3 credit hour course. The 1 tells you that it's a freshman level course. 2 would be sophomore, 3 would be junior. So that 4-digit number does have some significance there. We're going to look at Morgan.
Actually, so my class had a question about, because on the sheet it shows that they're getting 3 credit hours for, say, elementary algebra, but then at the bottom it says that they're only carrying like 11 hours. So would that affect their scholarship if they're supposed to be a full-time student, but yet they are hours, but technically they're not getting hours?
If you look at your that's a good question. If you look at your midterm grades, if you have a remedial course like a math, a writing enhancement, reading enhancement, the course number does end in a 3, but the very first number in the course number is a 0, which signifies a 0 level or remedial course. If you go over to the right, you're going to see some columns, which we're getting ready to hit, but you'll see one of the columns says credit hours and one says grade points. The column for credit hours should have a 0 in it there, I believe, for a remedial course.
Yeah.
Does it? Okay.
Well, the hours is still a 3, but then the next to it is a 0.
Under points, okay. And points is what we use to calculate GPA, so that tells you a couple of things. You don't get any credit for the course, and it's not included in your GPA. For most scholarships, though, those courses are included. Brian's going to hit on financial aid in a few moments, but for most instances, scholarships and financial aid, if you're required to take a remedial class, then it's okay. It's covered under the scholarship, and it is included in the hours. Now, if you come in here without testing into a remedial math, but you choose to take one, that may be a different story. If you're not required to take a class, they may not help you pay for it. But if you're taking what you're supposed to, scholarships should honor that in most cases. On a rare occasion, we've had to write a letter for a student because the scholarship source wanted to know that the remedial class was required or they weren't going to fund the student for that. So if you need help, you can come see us. We've written letters for that before. The kind of letter we won't write, though, we have students coming in from Creek Nation, other Cherokee, other tribal scholarships that require 15 credit hours, and they're enrolled in 14. And they come by and want us to write a letter saying that we wouldn't let them take 15 or they were told to take 14. We won't do that because we didn't tell you that. I mean, if you have a scholarship, you need to know what the requirements are to keep your money. If you get stuff all summer that says you need to be in 15 hours and you enroll in 14, you're bad at that point. We need to know that when we enroll you. You need to tell us because 1,200 students, 1,200 different situations. GPA. What I would do if I were you is get something to write with, pen or pencil, piece of paper. I'm going to walk you through the steps of figuring your GPA. It's pretty simple. What this is going to allow you to do is you're going to be able to say, what if I have a D in this class? What if I have a C in this class? What if I improve this grade to an A? What's it going to do to my GPA? So when we're all said and done here, you're going to be able to sit down and calculate your own GPA for your courses. First thing we'll look at the very top, it kind of tells you the value of the letter grades that you make. If you have all A's in your classes, what's your GPA going to be? 4.0. So we know an A is worth 4 points. If you have all B's, what are you going to have? 3.0. So we know a B is worth 3 points, a C is worth 2, a D is worth 1, an F is worth 0. If you make an F in a class, it is included in your GPA. It's a big fat goose egg. If you know anything about math, anything about averages, if you put a 0 in it, it doesn't usually help. It doesn't help the cause if you throw a 0 into an average, so think about that if you're making an F in one of your classes. What I would do is write down the courses you're currently enrolled in. University strategies, this is one. Maybe you're in health like Fred here. Maybe you're in health, comp 1, math, psychology. Write down the courses that you're currently enrolled in. And then write down the letter grade you think you're going to have in each class when the semester's over, or what you currently have. Once you write those down, you should have 4 or 5 courses if you're a full-time student. What you do is you take the grade you're making in the class. Let's say University Strategies, you're making a B. A B is worth 3 points, we decided. So you take 3. It's a 2 credit hour class. This class is worth 2 credit hours. It does affect your GPA. And you multiply. 3 times 2 credit hours. B is 3 points. 2 credit hours. 3 times 2 is 6. You get 6 grade points for this class. On your midterm grades you were given, there's a column that says grade points. That's not just a wild number thrown out there. This is where that number comes from. Grade points on your transcript are derived from what you're making and the hours for the class. Personal health, if you're making an A is worth 4 points. It's a 3-hour class. 4 times 3 is 12. And so on and so forth. Comp 1C, it's worth 2 points. 2 times 3 is 6. It's a 3-hour class. Math. This is elementary algebra, 0, 1, 2, 3. A lot of you guys are in that class. The point value is a 0. Why is the point value a 0 when we're doing the math right here? Does anybody know? It's a 0 level class. It's a remedial course. You cannot include remedial courses in your GPA figures. You don't get hours for the class, so we can't make it count in your GPA for or against you. Does that make sense? If it's a remedial or 0 level class, you don't get the hours, so it does not affect your collegiate GPA. Cannot impact your GPA if you don't get hours for it. So if you're in any remedial courses, what I would do is probably draw a line through the remedial classes you're in. Draw a line, scribble through them, because if you include them in your calculations, it's going to kind of mess with your math here. So make sure you don't include those in any calculation when doing GPA. Psychology, or whatever else you have. If you have a B is 3 points. It's a 3-hour class. 3 times 3 is 9. So you have 9 points for that. Once you've done that for every single course, you will take all the grade points that you have accumulated, and you're going to add those up, and you're going to get a total. The total here is 33. That's your total number of grade points. Then you take the number of hours you're enrolled in, and you divide your total divided by that. Here we divided by 11. This person's enrolled in 14 hours. Why did we divide by 11? Because of the remedial course. Once again, you don't want to include the 0 level class in anything. You don't want to include it in your total. You don't want to include it in your math. So we take your total 33 points divided by 11 because there's 11 hours of college credit here. And it's going to show a 3.0. If you're in a remedial class, you may look at your transcript, your midterm grades, and it may show that you have earned 11 hours. You're thinking, I'm enrolled in 14. Why does my transcript say 11? If you're in a remedial course, even if you're passing it, you don't get credit for it. So it's never going to be reflected in your hours. If you're not in a remedial class, the bottom scenario kind of fits you. There's no remedial courses here, no 0 level classes. These are all collegiate level. They're all 3 credit hours except for University Strategies. It's worth 2. If we did the math here, say you're making a D in here, which unfortunately is the case for many of you, it's worth 1 point. 1 times 2 is 2. Do the math on all the others. Add it up, and here we divide it by 14 because you're enrolled in 14 credit hours. No remedial class. Divided by 14, it gets you a 2.5 for the GPA. Later on, you're not going to have a 2-hour class in the equation. You're not going to have University Strategies. You're just going to have more 3 credit hour courses, maybe a 4 credit hour course here or there. This may be what you look like next year. You may have 12 hours in the spring and maybe 12 hours in the fall. So it's pretty simple. They're all 3 credit hour courses. You get 2 points for a C, 1 point for a D. Add everything up, divide by 12. Over a year, what you need to look at is if you make a 175, you totally crap out one semester. You come back the next semester, make a 325, and you think everything's all good because you made a 325. You got to remember this is an average. Everything you've done in the past is still going to be with you. So over 1 year, if this was your first and second semester in school and you made a 175 and a 325, your cumulative overall would be a 2.5, which still isn't great. So whatever, if you know anything about averages, if you've ever worried about a free throw shooting percentage or a batting average or anything else dealing with averages, same type thing. If you start off kind of cold, it's going to take you a while to recover. If you start off hot and you're doing well, you have a little bit of padding to work with. Keep in mind that it is an average. This semester you're in 14 hours. Next semester, if you're not in 14 hours, which you probably won't be, you'll probably be in 12 or 15, a different number. You can't really take this semester's GPA add it to next semester's GPA and divide by 2, unless you're in 14 hours both semesters, because the math doesn't work out. Does that make sense? You can't take a 14-hour semester and a 6-hour semester and add them and divide by 2, because it's not equivalent. All you have to do is, say you've been here 3 years and you have 90 hours in your transcript, it keeps track of all your numbers for you. Grade points, hours earned, hours attempted. You just take your current semester, do what we just showed you, add that to the totals, which are already on your transcript there. You're going to add this number to the grade points column, and you're going to add the number of hours you're enrolled in to the hours attempted. You're going to see 2 columns on there. You're going to see attempted and earned. What's the difference? Anybody know? If you flunked something, you attempted it. Did you earn the hours if you flunked it? No. If you're enrolled in 14 hours and you flunk a class, your transcript is going to show 14 hours attempted, 11 hours earned. And we always use that attempted number to calculate GPA. So that includes your Fs, because those are included in your GPA. So there could be a difference between hours attempted and hours earned. If you're in a pass-fail course, a PE class, or reading or writing, the way those are structured, P signifies a pass, and F is a fail. In the PE courses, if you pass them, it doesn't affect your GPA. The P is neutral. If you flunk them, it does affect your GPA because an F is not neutral. So if you're in a pass-fail class, it's imperative that you pass those classes because they'll hurt you if you don't. Questions about GPA? Questions about anything you've seen on your midterm grades? Yes, ma'am. It depends on if it's a PE course, like we just said, you actually get, it's worth a credit hour when you enroll in a PE course, and you earn a credit hour for it. If you flunk it, it negatively affects your GPA because an F is a 0. If you pass it, a P has no numerical value, so a P is neutral. So it's almost like a no-win. I hate to say it that way, but if you flunk it, it hurts you. If you pass it, it doesn't help you. So you need to pass those, because if you flunk them, they will hurt you. Now, if you're in a remedial, like a reading or writing, and you flunk it, it doesn't affect your GPA because, once again, it's a remedial course, but the F you make always stays on your transcript physically. So that wouldn't affect your GPA in a reading or writing, but it would physically be there. If you're in a weekend seminar, a lot of those are pass-fail. Same rule as the PE class. Yes, ma'am.
If you have a bad grade on the midterm, get the grade up before they get to the third.
Yeah, if you currently have a grade that either you don't agree with or it's poor and you know it's poor and you're going to work on that, these are physically going to come off in a few weeks. And your permanent grades in December are going to replace the ones that are on there. So these are temporary. Now, if you were to get a transcript right now, an official transcript, they would be printed on it. But they're going to go away. We're going to take them out of the system. Just to kind of give you an idea where you're at.
I came in late. I have a few questions on the grade part. What does N stand for?
If you have an N for a class, that means the grade was not reported. Usually when that happens, the instructor didn't report any grades for that entire class. It's nothing you did personally. Maybe the teacher had an emergency or they missed the deadline or they're out of the country, who knows. And that's neutral. It's not included in your GPA. So whatever you're making in there, you might mentally insert that into your grades. See where you're at.
Also, on the GPA, on mine it says 4.0. Is that good?
4.0 is good. That's the top of,
I just wanted to make sure.
that's as good as it gets.
Negative 5.0?
No. There's no weighted grade scales here. I hope that was sarcasm. It was sarcasm, right? Okay, good. Because if you're making a 4.0 and didn't know that, that'd be awesome. What? Yes, there's no weighted grade scale here. So if you're one of those in high school, you had a 4.675. Sorry, 4.0 is as good as it gets here. Questions? Questions? If you have personal questions about your grades or you want to approach one of us, come up afterwards and let us know. If you have questions about your grade in here, keep in mind absences do affect that, and your peer instructors take roll every week. And if you leave early or come in late, if you came in late, you missed that announcement. If you leave early or come in late significantly, you're going to be counted absent. So that's it. I'm going to have Brian come up and speak to you guys about some other issues.
All right, so overall, have a goal for what kind of GPA you want in college. Well, maybe it's realistic to say you want that 3.4, so you graduate with honors. Or maybe you just want to graduate with a 3.0 or higher. But try to set at least a 3.0 or higher maybe as a goal for yourself. And so if you look at your overall first semester, midterm, figure out what you need to maybe do differently. Let's kind of talk a little bit about, we kind of talked on the high end and graduating with honors and honor roll and all that kind of stuff. The average GPA actually of all NSU students, when you put everybody's GPA in the mix, it's about a 2.7. So I'm sure, you know, if you were to ask everybody could probably be doing a lot better than they are. But let's talk a little bit on the low end, because this happens. As they say, life happens, right? So let's talk a little bit about, on the low end, academic probation, academic notice, academic suspension, some of these things. Last fall, we had about 250 freshmen, fall of 9 freshmen, so a year ago. About 250 in the fall semester with less than a 2.0 GPA. So about 25% of the freshman class ended the semester either on academic probation or academic notice. And we're hopefully wanting to change some of that. We're wanting you guys to do better and far surpass them, earn better grades, and don't get kicked out of school. But basically, just kind of want to talk about that. If your GPA at the end of the semester is a 1.7 to a 1.999, just less than 2.0, you're on academic notice. Just a warning for freshmen. That's basically the standard, 1.7 for you. For sophomores, juniors, and seniors, that is raised to a 2.0. If you're below 1.7 as a freshman, or below a 2.0 as a sophomore, junior, or senior, you're on what's called academic probation. If you're on academic probation for more than 2 semesters, you're academically suspended from the university. And really, it's more just kind of an act of mercy that, you know, hey, things aren't going well, you're digging yourself further in the hole, so let's take a break, let's cool off, let's go somewhere else. You can come back to NSU eventually, but one of the things to avoid. Well, you know that there's actually several students, a couple of your peers, about 10 or so, there's 1,200 here, that are on academic probation now as a result of some transfer grades, as a result of this last summer, enrolling and not doing well. So there's a couple students who really need to do well this semester, otherwise they'll be suspended. So just kind of wanted to hit that so you guys would know. If you're doing poorly, let's just kind of talk about this. First of all, you know, you should try to avoid in the future putting yourself in a position where you're thinking about withdrawing from classes. A lot of students will say, well, let me get 15 hours in case I need to drop a class. Well, that takes that graduation date further and further the more you do that. So it's really important that you go into this whole college experience, maybe even trying to avoid withdrawing from class. That would be a great goal. Have a 3.4 or higher and avoid dropping a class. That would be a great goal to have. But it happens. So if it happens in your case, you just want to pay attention to evaluating what you're enrolled in. And maybe it's too much. You know, you're in 14 hours this semester, or maybe you're in 10 or 9, or maybe you're a part-time student, and that type of thing. Let's all be your full-time. You can actually, and when you think about financial aid, you can actually be at different categories, at different levels. So don't think that you're only getting financial aid if you're in full-time. Maybe you have a full-time job, and maybe you have kids and all that kind of stuff, and you can't handle a full-time job. So know that you can set your financial aid up to be full-time, 3/4 time, or half-time. So because many times we have students who just go to school half-time, just 2 classes a semester. So it's really important to evaluate that, and evaluate that next semester. You know, maybe you really would say, I got to take less hours next semester, or maybe you're pregnant, you're going to have a baby, and you need to have a different kind of schedule next semester. Or you're going to take on a full-time job, have a different kind of schedule next semester. Quality is better than quantity, so have those A's and those B's. If you have a D or an F in a class right now, because often it happens, and there's quite a few of you who do, speak with your instructor. You'll realize, and we've realized it before too, that a student might be failing a class in midterms and making a D. But if you just go talk to the instructor, you'll find out that that test will be dropped, or there's going to be some extra credit, or there's something that's going to happen in the class, or there's going to be a curve. You know, talk to your instructor before you make any rash decisions and go off and drop a class. Talk to your instructor. It's really important that you maintain that line of communication. But basically, you gotta determine if you're not doing well, can you improve? If the answer is yes, then you should do everything in your power to improve. If the answer is no, then you should withdraw. But you might say, well, if I withdraw, then I'm going to lose financial aid. the world is going to end. Well, no, that's not right. There's a lot of myths out there. There's a lot of misconceptions about withdrawing or failing and financial aid and that type of thing. We want to clear some of that up today. Realize that November 4th is the last day to withdraw from a class and get an automatic W on your transcript, all right? And what that means is that when the professor goes to do their grades at the end of the semester, a W will pop up because they don't have any barrier or control over what grade is assigned if you have withdrawn, all right? That's November 4th. November 4th. It doesn't matter. Say you're in 14 hours right now and you need to drop class. Things aren't going well, not getting in. Well, you can go ahead and drop it. Now, you might evaluate that you need to be full-time for insurance purposes or other things. I mean, there are financial aid, or there are insurance companies that require that you be a full-time student, that type of thing. You might be aware of that. There are weekend seminars that you can get. But don't think that because you drop a class and maybe from 14 down to 11, that you have to automatically rush off and go get an extra hour. We'll jump around here and talk about financial aid. For all federal aid programs and OTAG, there is a satisfactory academic progress policy. It's really important that you're aware of this. Now, if everybody filled out your student information sheet, which you need to have done to get financial aid, that's on that form. So make sure that this should be kind of a review. And I know for many of you it's not, but this is a good reminder that you've got to read everything that you sign. On the website, under financial aid, under academic progress, the satisfactory academic progress policy is lined out in 1 and 2 different things there. Hour completion and GPA requirements. So for all federal aid programs and OTAG, there are 2 mechanisms, and you've got to meet both requirements or 2 mechanisms. Number 1, it's a GPA requirement. So 1.7 as a freshman, 1 to 30 hours, 1.7, that's the minimum. If you fall below that at the end of the academic year, you could be suspended from financial aid. So 1.7. For sophomores, juniors, and seniors, it's a 2.0. So again, the bar is kind of low, really low. You should be shooting up there for that 3.0 or 3.4. But 1.7 or 2.0 for the GPA requirement. Hour completion requirement. It all depends on how you're funded. You're either funded one of 3 ways, either full-time, 3/4 time, or half-time. And there are different requirements for those 3 categories. If you're funded full-time, you need 24 hours in the academic year. The academic year is not the calendar year, not January to December. The academic year is fall, starts with fall, and goes to spring, and then ends with summer. So if you're funded full-time, you need 24 hours by the end of the summer, all right? Or else you could be suspended from financial aid. Now remember here that 0-level classes do count in this total. That's where it could be a little confusing. Make sure you count those 0-level classes, all right? 24 hours. How this goes is that at the end of the spring semester, the end of your second semester, they're going to tabulate, okay, how many hours have you completed? And what your GPA is. If you have less than a 1.7 or less than 24 hours completed on a full-time basis, you'll be on what's called financial aid probation. You receive an email and a letter about it. And you have the summer, next summer, to fix this and get the required hours. So if you ended the spring with a total of 22 hours, well, that means you need 2 more hours in summer. Or if you ended the semester of the academic year with a 1.6, not good. You need to take some summer classes to get that GPA in. And then at the end of the summer, you've got to have that 1.7 and that 24 hours as a freshman, or else you could be suspended from financial aid. But once again, there are appeal processes. So these are government requirements, state requirements, NSU requirements. We have to be accountable to the money that comes from the federal and state governments. So we've got to keep you accountable to make sure you make progress in your degree. But these are just kind of mechanisms and requirements, but there's people, flesh and blood people, who, if you have problems over your first year, there's appeal processes that we can work through. So if someone dies, or if you get pregnant and have to withdraw from all your classes, well, you can complete an appeal process there's a good chance that you can get your financial aid that next year. Does that make sense? That's federal programs and OTAG. OLAP is a little different, Oklahoma's promise. That promise is kind of hard to break a little bit. And if you have questions about OLAP, I'll direct you to Student Financial Services. Oklahomans are a little bit more lenient as it comes to grades and progress. So, but that's just some information on some of the federal programs. Cheryl Parrish and Brenda Fears, two of the financial aid counselors. Stop by and see them. You can call them, you can email them, you can stop by Student Financial Services. And this year they've really done some good work providing some counselors for you to talk to. Feel free to email them and call them, see if you guys can set up a meeting. So if you have questions about your financial aid, you should really see them about that. Let me go back to that withdrawal date. If you think you need to withdraw from a class, you can take action by November 4th and get a W. But maybe, and it goes back to talking with your instructor, the instructor might actually allow you to go past that date and still work with you. And that's where you just kind of want to dialogue with your instructor. Because maybe you're really trying hard in this class, but it's a D and it's not going up very far. But maybe over the course, maybe there's a couple tests in November around Thanksgiving, and your instructor would allow you the opportunity to stay in the class. And if things don't pan out and you're not getting the grade that you would hope, December 3rd is the absolute last day to drop the class. But if you don't do it by that November 4th deadline, you do it between November 5th and December 3rd, you're not guaranteed a W, and your instructor determines if you get a W or not. So that's where, once again, talk to your instructor. This dialogue with your instructor is really important. So, are there any questions about that? About withdrawing, or if you just have to do the math. If you did a withdrawal from the class, got to figure out how you're going to get those remaining hours next spring. You have a plan for next summer. On your student information sheet with financial aid, you marked whether you anticipated taking summer classes. Okay? Well, if that's changed over the last 4, 5, 6 months since you put that form out, you can go over to financial aid, maybe change that to where they look for age for next summer. Any questions? Think of anything else? All right. If you have,
Make sure we collect here.
yeah, if your instructors make sure you bring those extras down to us. If you have specific questions, because I know sometimes in a group you don't want to really talk about specific questions, if you have that, come on down and talk about it. Come on over to the experience. Well, yeah. Have a good fall break.